Hello, hello, and welcome to episode 106 of the Great Canadian Hockey Podcast. I'm James Parsi here with my co-host Aiden Sarah, and man, it hasn't been long, but a lot has happened. We have new Olympic gold medalists. It's almost trade deadline day. Moves have been made, comments have been made, teams have changed directions, but one thing hasn't changed. Things are just going to keep heating up until we finish marching towards playoffs. But before I get into hockey, before I dive into just about everything that's been going on, Aiden Sarah, how are we doing, fella?
Solid. Happy March. Happy March. And that obviously, it comes with a trade deadline, but it also comes with the end of my hockey season. And James, this time at the end of my hockey season, I think my last day of work is March 22nd. And then on paper, James and I start school on March 23rd. So
Mm-hmm.
I get to not have to worry about doing both at the same time until a tournament pops up, which is nice. How are you? Are you fired up for that?
Yeah. I like being academic. I'm looking forward to getting that going again. I like hitting the books, man. Just getting to learn a little bit more info and exercise that. I've always tested well, and I
Oh
don't think
yeah.
this is an exam heavy thing that we're doing. I
See, I've
don't
been
think
the
that's part of
opposite.
it at all. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the opposite always.
Yeah, I don't know why that's the case for me, but yeah, I'm just kind of checking things off the list, getting myself ready to hop back into school without any other worries and things going on in the world. I had my car's engine blow up like and like right after warranty ended, so that's been like a real kick in the pants, but
Did
there's
you
not
get
that much
like
you can do.
did you get an actual what happened to it
Oh,
answer?
well, they have to disassemble and reassemble the engine to figure out exactly what's wrong with it. But yeah, but
That's
by that point,
incredible.
we're already $10,000 into it.
Yeah. What a
Yeah,
wonderful,
yeah.
wonderful. Yeah.
It makes a sick paperweight though. Like it looks good.
The car?
Yeah, it's a good paperweight. Like if you're looking for a lawn ornament, like I got you. I got you covered.
That's not the worst idea.
No, no, and I mean you park that in front of your house. People are like, oh, he has a sports car. That's cool. I wonder what other cool things he has going on in life.
It's going to be disappointing when the answer subsequently is not a lot, though. It's
Yeah,
just like
yeah,
it's a draw you in, but then good luck.
yeah. 100%, man. Well, yeah, I haven't really been up to a whole lot else. I'm just kind of gearing up for things to get a little bit nicer out. I've been taking health supplements a little bit more seriously again. I think I went like 2 months without taking a vitamin, and it was showing in my brain and body functions. So, I mean, if you're an adult, which I assume you are, just kind of keep on that. I mean, I try kind of try and stress all my friends like take care of your health a little bit. You don't want to be that like 37-year-old dude having a jammer. That sucks. That's just terrible. None of us want that. But yeah, I think we dive into some hockey, Aiden. But before we get in there, we're gonna get to all the Olympic talk later in the pod. I think just because we took a little bit of time away from it after the Olympics ended, just with my busyness, Aiden's busyness, and now that we're getting to it, I think it's a little more pressing to talk about all of the trade info and details and rumors swirling around the NHL and what's gone on and what we think might go on. So we'll get to Olympics. Hold on tight, and if you really feel the need to skip ahead to it, fly at her. You'll find it somewhere. I think Apple Podcasts summarizes everything for you now, so that's pretty cool. You can skip ahead by a segment, even though we don't have it organized by segments. So, yeah, well, let's get into some trade stuff, Aiden. Where do you want to start?
Start with the Avs because I really like this trade for both teams.
Definitely, Aiden. Well, with the March 6th trade deadline approaching rapidly, we're recording on Tuesday, March 3rd, so you'll have a couple days of buffer room before we get there. But this move for Colorado, you surrender a long time defenseman, which is crazy to say of Sam Girard because it feels like it hasn't been that long, but it really has. He was acquired in that big blockbuster three-way Matt Duchene trade between Nashville, Colorado, and Ottawa. Won a Stanley Cup with the team, famously broke his sternum and 2 weeks later was doing a backflip in the Stanley Cup parade. But really great personality-driven defenseman, super creative, and I loved having him on the Avalanche. And he's sent with a second-round pick to the Pittsburgh Penguins for Brett Kulak, who wasn't a Pittsburgh Penguin for very long either. He was acquired in the Skinner Jari deal. But the Avalanche acquire something more valuable than a player right now, and that is cap space heading into the trade deadline. They have Logan O'Connor coming back off LTIR sometime soon, so that 8.7 million they have is going to shrink just a little bit. But with a little bit over $6 million of cap space heading into the deadline, and being able to weaponize teams that can retain once, maybe even twice for you, that's going to be extremely valuable. Aiden, I don't know where they take that cap space. I have no idea what happens there. Everybody wants to talk about one of the big centers that's available, but I just don't know if that's going to work. But regardless, I love the possibilities it opens up. And
Yeah,
for Pittsburgh, the asset management, like you're getting a second round pick, and then you can flip Sam Girard to someone else next season.
yeah, especially like I think he's what? He's at 5 million bucks. He is at 5 million
Yeah,
bucks. So even then, like I'm taking a Sam Gerard every day for 3.5, right? For sure.
yeah.
So even if he doesn't, play up to that for the rest of the season in Pittsburgh, I don't think he's played up to that in Colorado the last few seasons either. I don't think I'll get much disagreement with that. Though part of the trade I wanted to highlight, though, James, wasn't the Colorado part, which again, you're right. It's a good move to get Kulak. I actually think he's more necessary, like he's a more necessary kind of defenseman for what the Colorado Avalanche are looking for than Girard is. But Kyle Dubas in Pittsburgh, James, again, obviously the Penguins have been, I wouldn't even say rebuilding. They've been retooling pretty vividly, pretty clearly, but they haven't moved Raquel, Russ, Crosby, Malkin, Letang, Carlson. They just moved Jari, but it was a like for a goaltender. But despite the fact that only what Gensel is the big name that they traded away, this next season, 2026, one first rounder, 2 seconds, 2/3. Next season, 2027, one first rounder, 2 seconds, 2/3. 2028, one first rounder, 3 seconds, 2/3. And that's in addition to multiple second round picks in a fifth round, multiple second round picks in a fourth round. They've traded 4 picks, but they've recouped 3 of them already in the same area. For a Kyle Dubas, who I still think every year goes into the season and says we might be able to make the playoffs, the fact that he's done this so far is really, really impressive. Now, you know what I'm going to say, which is grow a pair and finish the job. But obviously, Crosby, Malkin, Raquel, Kevin Hayes, Letang, and Carlson all have some form of a no move, no trade clause, right? So I say that, grow a pair and get it done. If Malkin and Crosby want to stay in Pittsburgh and ride it out, it's their call as well. So maybe it's not Dubas, but if it is, let's go, Kyle. You're doing well so far.
Yeah, great asset management on his part for sure. Another defenseman getting dealt, this one, Connor Murphy of the Chicago Blackhawks, getting sent to the Edmonton Oilers. Right-hand shot, defensive defenseman, second pair, decent first pass, willing to stand up for his teammates when necessary, and a 2028 second rounder that the Oilers aren't going to miss. I honestly love the addition to their blue line. I think that's really helpful.
They
I,
needed
I
this.
don't hate the cost.
No, they needed this a lot more than they needed Jake Wallman last year, for sure.
Aiden, I saw a comment on Instagram where an Oilers fan was asking Blackhawks fans what they're getting in Connor Murphy. And the Oilers fan prefaces, I don't watch anyone except the Oilers, so I don't really know him all that well. And a Blackhawks fan said, you're going to love what you get from him, but it won't be what we got from him here because due to the state of our decrepit franchise for so long, Connor Murphy is probably the best defenseman the Blackhawks had from 2016 to 2026. I honestly hadn't thought about it until then. I still remember when Stan Bowman, who acquired him as GM of the Oilers just now, acquired him as GM of the Blackhawks and said this was a guy we've been targeting for years. He has a bright future on our blue line. Well, if you look at it that way, he did have a bright future on their blue line. Dude played a lot of minutes. So,
And
yeah,
he
go
got
chase a
him.
cup, man. After all
He
those years in futility, chasing a cup, like you gotta feel for the guy. That's amazing. He gets this opportunity now.
and he got him for a Nicholas Jalmerson who played 4 years in Arizona, but fell off.
Hmm.
I think part of it was due to his age and then some injury problems. He just didn't rehab from like he needed to. But even when they traded Jalmerson, like he was already 32, I think.
Right.
So he was like he was over the hill. Like his prime with Johnny Aduya had come and gone, and they were in a rebuilding phase. So it's one great Murphy trade for Bowman back then. Obviously, Oilers fans will hope that this is another great Murphy trade. I also think like he's 32.
Dude, I
That's
don't know why, but you just sounded so much like Kyle Bukauskas there. I have no idea why. I just heard his voice so much.
I haven't listened to enough 32 Thoughts with him. Like it just losing Merrick just stung.
Yeah.
It hurts. It hurt
Yeah,
right
that's a
there.
tough blow for me too. Tough one.
I think for the Oilers, this 32-year-old defenseman is a better option than the 32-year-old defenseman Brett Kulak that they traded to Pittsburgh and has since been traded to Colorado.
Yeah.
Kulak was a left-handed shot. Edmonton has Evan Bouchard on the right. Now their number two on the right side is Connor Murphy. It was Ty Emberson. And again, I think Ty Emberson is a really, really good number six, but not anything above that. So calm down about him being a second pair. Murphy on the second pair with Darnell Nurse. Take it. Take it.
Another deal made just within the last hour. That's the Minnesota Wild acquiring hulking forward Mike McCarron from the Nashville Predators for yet another 2028 second rounder. You're noticing a trend here. That's exactly what these teams are trading away because if you trade a second rounder this year, that kind of has tangible value to you. That's a guy I can pick up right now. But if you're a contending team, why would you ever care about a second round pick 3 years from now? You're trying to win a cup right now. A second round pick 3 years from now, even if you hit an ace in the hole, they're not going to be ready to go when most of your current core guys are still on the roster. So, yes, great deals moving these picks, but I don't really love the idea of a second round pick for Mike McCarron. Great fourth liner over the past handful of years, better than I remember him being, but 6'6", 230 pounds. I mean, it kind of fits what Minnesota's looking to do with their bottom six. I don't know what else to say about that one.
Yeah, see, I agree with you that a 2028 second rounder for a contender is not a bad asset to give up. I don't think Michael McCarron was the guy to do it, especially when you look at the other forwards that are available on the market, because not a lot of teams have the space, and this is probably a big part of it with the Minnesota Wild was they just didn't want to open up other space with other necessary moves. But you look at some of the other forwards that are on the market, and there's a big list that I'd say you probably could have got that for less than a second round pick,
Right,
or it would have taken a second round pick and a little bit more to get a much better player like a Blake Coleman, right?
right.
So I think Minnesota. I think this is a little bit of a band-aid move. I don't love it, but like you said, remember Marcus Foligno in Minnesota when he went there? I
Yeah.
didn't really love that trade. I
Ooh, I loved that deal when they made that one.
was that for Jordan Greenway?
Yeah,
I was high on Jordan Greenway, so I
I
kind of thought,
wasn't.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was wrong. Obviously, it was a good trade, but when that
Aiden, their
happened,
fourth line now is when healthy is Marcus Foligno, Nico Sturm, and Mike McCarron.
see, and that's what I was gonna say is look how well the Foligno thing worked out.
Yeah.
He's loved in that room, and he's
Oh yeah.
loved in Minnesota. We'll go to some rumors. Minnesota apparently, James, as of right now, among the leaders of the Vincent Trocheck sweepstakes. You and I have talked about him to Carolina. I think everybody else has talked about him to Carolina. We've heard a lot about him going back to Carolina. I said it 3 times because that's how much I feel like I've been hearing it.
Say it a
Is
fourth time,
oh my
Carolina.
god, all the time. But I like this to Minnesota a lot. I think the Wild, as they've shown already this season, have young assets and are willing to use them to get high end players. They used Bouillon and Ogren to get Quinn Hughes. They still have other guys in the chamber. If somebody's going to get this done, Bill Guerin's going to get it done. Dude, you know how much money Trocheck's making off the top of your head?
I think it's 6 point something, 7 point something.
It's 5.6, which is
What?
criminal. Criminally low, $5.625 million until 2029.
He's
So,
a dream second line
oh,
center.
are you kidding me? And for that money?
Yeah.
Like, that's again, and we're gonna talk about the Olympics. I don't know if we're gonna get to Trocheck when we get to the Olympics. Really quick, the United States doesn't win without Vincent Trocheck. Period. I actually think they don't win the tournament without him. Because they don't win the tournament if they don't go 18 for 18 on the PK. So
Right.
that's I'll throw that onto Trocheck. I don't know if I'm going to give him the enough. I don't know if we're going to have enough time to give him that credit later. But this is the kind of player that's out there, and if the cost isn't high,
Well, Aiden, we did miss a trade, by the way. We didn't
did
talk about it last episode, and it's timely now that we're talking about Vincent Trocheck because his former Rangers teammate Artemi Panarin was traded just before the Olympic break. We didn't touch on this one at all,
I thought
and
we did.
yeah, we missed it unfortunately, and the Kings were seemingly gearing up. Unfortunately, Kevin Fiala was injured, breaking his leg in multiple places from what I gather at the Olympics. But Panarin slots in on that Kings first power play unit, which is actually kind of humming now that Jim Hiller has been fired as coach of the Kings. Yeah, now that they get rid of him, their power play is figuring it out, and now Brant Clark is looking dynamic as we all expected. But yeah, Liam Greentree, forward prospect, heading to the Rangers as well as a conditional third rounder. The Rangers retaining 50% of Panarin's salary. The condition on that pick is if the Kings win a playoff round, that draft pick turns into a second rounder. And if they win two playoff rounds, they also get a 2028 fourth rounder. Now, those conditions are all well and good, but the Kings haven't won a playoff series since 2014. So the Rangers, if they weren't handcuffed by Panarin, they probably could have got a bit more. Um, I'm kind of turning on to Greentree a little bit more. I don't mind that pickup. I'm kind of cool with that. I think they're going to get a hell of a lot more for Trocheck because that is everywhere on the ice player who's going to make a difference every time he sets foot on the ice. I've seen Panarin take 9 games off in a row before.
He's also at 11 million bucks. I
Yeah.
also like Liam Greentree. He's an incredibly skilled forward, but he fits the mold of a guy the New York Rangers have and will ruin. Like we've seen it. We've seen this story. I've watched this movie. High end, young, skilled forward that you think, oh my God, you could fit in on the second line with some of these veteran players and look really, really nice. And Alexi Lafreniere, Capo Caco, Leah Sanderson, Gabriel Perreault, dot, dot, dot. Liam Greentree hopefully is not the next name on that list. Hopefully Gabe Perreault is not the next name on that list. Brennan Othman comes to mind as well. So fingers crossed for Greentree. I think you said it yourself as clearly as you could say it. Rangers could have got more. Panarin wanted to go to LA. Panarin had control.
100%. If we're talking about another big dynamic forward that could be on the move, we've already talked Trocheck. Aiden, there's a lot of smoke pouring out from Robert Thomas right now. In fact, I've gotten 3 or 4 notifications today that say Robert Thomas to Buffalo is heating up. What the hell is going on there?
I really love that for Buffalo. Because at this point, when
Why
was the
didn't they
last
just
time?
keep Dylan Cousins?
Yeah, you can yeah, but when was the last time they were second in the Atlantic in March?
True, good
20,
point.
2007, right? So absolutely go for it. And the package that they put together, it's not something that is going to hurt them a lot right now, and it's something that I think has huge potential upside for the St. Louis Blues. What we saw most recently was a proposed package of Owen Power, Consta Hellenius, and Jack Quinn from Buffalo to St. Louis in return
Quinn's
for
nice.
Robert Thomas. I think Jack Quinn goes straight into the middle six. I think he's a perfect like Jimmy Snuggerud kind of backup option, right? Snuggerud plays on the first line. Quinn's a similar player down on the second line kind of thing. But Consta Hellenius to me, James, like we might be talking about Anton Lundell. Honestly, like that's how much I like this guy. I like Lundell a lot coming out of the draft, and I see a lot of the similarities as they're making their way into their early 20s. And then, dude, the fact that the third guy we talk about here is a former first overall pick. I know Owen Power hasn't been Matthew Schaefer, which is the bar for first overall picks. If you ask the hockey world, because that's what it seems like the expectation is every year. But for Power, again, this is still a guy who's a super, super solid number three left shot defenseman that anchors a pair. He's not going to do, he's not going to do Rasmus Dahlin, but he's going to do Owen Power. And Owen Power on the second pair is really nice.
And we didn't source where that information came from. Do you know where that report of the proposed trade came from?
I do. I wrote it down.
It's a former
Jordan,
player.
yeah, it's Jordan Schmaltz, former St.
Yep.
Louis Blue too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Jordan Schmaltz kept it up, and he did say this is from his direct source. He has been on fire with his direct sources. I listened to his podcasts, and they are a little bit hilarious. More on the comedy side for sure. Uh, Braden Shen would be willing to lift his NTC to go play playoff hockey in the right market. And Jordan Binnington has a 14 team no trade clause controlling a bit of his destiny. But if he's going anywhere, it's to a big time market that has the intangibles to win now. He wouldn't have brought this up if there wasn't something there. He specifically says he hasn't spoken to Jordan Binnington, but Jordan Binnington is one of his best friends. So, I mean, you're not just bringing that up for no reason.
Dude,
Oh, and then he just tweeted 3 hours ago from his source, he's hearing Owen Power might be off the table now. Yeah. So I'm really curious to see what happens there. Jordan Schmaltz refers to himself as the people's insider, which I love. I think that's hilarious. Um, yeah, it's nice to follow along with if you want a little bit less of a serious approach to the whole inside sources thing, especially from a guy who refers to himself as the Swish as well. So yeah, tune in, see where it goes. I don't really have anything else direct on the other two forwards that we're going to talk about that we're hearing smoke from. Aiden, two Vancouver Canucks, Elias Pettersson and Connor Garland. What have you got here?
yeah, just buzz, right? Like the Islanders are clearly in for a winger.
Yeah.
Something tells me it's not going to be Connor Garland. I would love that because, again, I love Danny Nelson, and I think Danny Nelson's a piece they'd use, especially now that they have Cal Ritchie. Nelson's a piece they'd put into the mix somewhere. But I have a funny feeling the Islanders are going to not get as big of a fish. And James, I think in the next, again, I could be wrong. By the time people listen to this episode on Wednesday, there could have been two blockbusters. We don't know. But I kind of feel like people are going to be a little bit disappointed with which moves actually get made because the assets that a lot of these teams have aren't there to make these moves, right? Like the Islanders will be able to get a forward, but does Minnesota have what it takes to get Trocheck? Is a team going to be able to fork over what it's going to take to get Nazem Kadri? Is there a way to get Justin Falk or Rasmus Ristolainen onto other rosters when they have the salary caps they do and with everything being so squeezed right now? So yeah, the Islanders are in on a forward. I'd love it to be Garland. I actually expect it not to be. I expect it more to be in the Michael McCarron, not for a second round pick, hopefully, but Michael McCarron, the category of player. It's funny you brought up Braden Shen. If Braden Shen gets moved, I hope him and Luke Shen get traded to the same team.
That'd be fun. We almost had that at one
Yeah,
point, didn't we?
yeah.
Didn't it get nixed last minute or something?
I don't remember, but that
I
rings a
remember
bell.
something, and I wish I remember exactly what it was. There were a couple of other small time deals. In previous years, we've really gone all the way in on every single deal out there. And no disrespect to the Julian Gauthiers and Matt Luffs of the world, but I'm not going to, in this year's trade deadline spectacular, which would be next episode, I'm not thinking we need to go over every Julian Gauthier for Matt Luff. Aiden, do you agree on that one? Should we let our listeners know that?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. All
yeah.
right. Because I think the one trade deadline we covered every single deal and I think we went on a tangent for one of those Matt Luff deals and I think we spent about 20 minutes on it inadvertently.
We did go on a marathon one year, and I actually think it's the most recent use of marathon in a podcast title. So if you care to know how long that was, just go on our little page. They're all still up.
We almost punched 3 hours with that one. I think we were close. Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
there was one mock draft we did where we recorded like 4 hours of footage or of audio with Jeremy. And I think like halfway through, I was like, holy, we are not going to be able to put this in one episode. And I kind of
No.
just stopped it. I was like, okay, this is part two now. This is a different thing now. Let's.
Okay. Well, Aiden, who are a few other players who could potentially be on the move as we get to this year's trade deadline? We've seen a lot of trade boards up there, whether you prefer TSN, Sportsnet, whichever, but who are we looking at getting moved?
Mike Greer is the kind of guy that I think is smart enough not to just lose an asset for nothing. And the
Sure.
asset he's currently got sitting on his plate is Kiefer Sherwood. Sherwood has not yet re signed. I talked about how I didn't know if I saw him fitting in San Jose long term. I talked about how I didn't know if I loved this trade from San Jose's point of view. I think now it all comes down to the what can you get in this deal, if that trade was worth making or not for the Sharks. I don't think that if Michael McCarron fetched a second round pick, they're going to have a problem getting that level of interest in Kiefer Sherwood. But again, I have a funny feeling it's a seller's market, whether or not, or sorry, it's a buyer's market, whether or not we want to submit to the fact that this might not be as exciting as we want it to be.
Yeah, in one guy we haven't talked about yet is Bobby McMahon. He's scheduled to be a UFA, potentially leaving the Toronto Maple Leafs on July 1st, and the guy's been a really solid middle six forward. He's pretty solid at both ends of the ice. He provides a nice scoring touch. I love his work around the net. I think he's nice on the breakout in the neutral zone because he attacks lanes. You're not going to see him be the guy who screws up the neutral zone breakout. And I think that's really valuable to a lot of teams that want to set up a little bit better of a cycle as well. So, I mean, it's interesting to see where he might go. I really, really begrudgingly could see him being a Dallas Star. And I say begrudgingly because I really, as an Avalanche fan, I just I don't want to lose to Dallas again, man. I'm not into it.
I feel
I'm
like
really over it.
this might be the fourth year in a row I've said this, but that second round could decide the Cup winner again, right? Like
Oh,
Dallas and Colorado in the second round is like Stanley Cup final number two, and I know neither team went on to win the last few years, but I kind of think Edmonton only beats Dallas that the year they beat them in six. I think they beat Dallas because Colorado took every ounce of energy the Dallas Stars had and sucked it out of them. Like
and I think Colorado beats Edmonton.
I do too.
But then I think they both lose against Florida.
In that hypothetical, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So like it doesn't change the eventual outcome, but I mean it alters the storyline quite a bit. Aiden, you wrote Patrick Laine's name down on this list. Do you think he's actually a guy who could get moved? I'm kind of skeptical about that one, but I'm not really too sure. Convince me.
If Montreal are serious about making a big splash, then they're going to move Laine. I actually think Robert Thomas is the other guy here. I think if Montreal wants to make a big move, it'll have to be an asset with Laine for somebody to take the money, and then Michael Hage plus for Robert Thomas.
Right.
I think Montreal's in the same boat as Buffalo, where they're looking at this season. They're thinking, this feels a little bit open. Our division feels very open. Like the Atlantic Division winner, like the semifinalist, the conference finalist out of the Atlantic, could be anybody out of
Yep.
that division. So I think
Or it
Montreal,
could
if
just be Tampa.
yeah, definitely. Well, to me, that's still anybody. Beginning of the season, I would not have had that on my bingo card either. So
Right.
as good as they've been this year, they deserve every ounce of it. It's still wide open to me. Like I'd even still throw them in as a contender the same way as everybody else.
Aiden Rasmus Ristolainen coming fresh off the Olympics, looking fantastic for Finland. To be honest, I loved everything that I really saw from him. Reportedly, the Boston Bruins are interested in Ristolainen. This one coming from Daily Faceoff and their array of reporters there, but everything I've seen online says Ristolainen's price isn't cheap, and that's because Philly doesn't exactly want to move him. It's just the market is a little bit thin on defensively sound right-handed defensemen. after Connor Murphy's been moved, and they can kind of name their price. So where other than Boston could you see Ristolainen being a fit?
I don't think he's going anywhere.
Okay.
I really don't think he's going anywhere. And you know what? If he was, because he's at a decent number, he's at $5.1 million. But if I'm the Philadelphia Flyers and I'm like, I'm looking out, I think their ask would be higher than St. Louis's for Justin Falk.
Yeah.
And Ristolainen's at 5.1 until the end of next season. I think you wait. I think you hold, and then you use the fact that he's only got a year left. You can retain a half to make a Ristolainen available for a team that really needs a right shot defenseman at the draft. Like I think a team like the Edmonton Oilers obviously is always the one that comes up with defensemen, but a team that needs a right hand shot defenseman for a whole season is where you see Ristolainen go in the summer because I think those contenders might be willing to move like a forward, for instance, that would actually help them in the playoffs this year, right? Like there are guys that we're looking at and saying, well, the team's not going to trade them; they need them this year, and I think those
Yeah.
guys become available for Philly as we march closer towards next season. I don't think he gets moved by the deadline. I think Falk is significantly more likely based on cost.
Blake Coleman, he's a guy whose name you wrote down. Everyone is associating him with the Colorado Avalanche now that they've got their cap space open, and now that they've got a couple spots they'd like to fill in the bottom six. Do you see him as a fit? If so, what do you think is the price?
You're going to have to give up a first rounder for him.
Yeah.
I think it's a first round pick, and you can say what, like conditional second or third that, or conditional third that can become a second if they win, something like that. I think that's the move. I'd love it to be Nazem Kadri. I know you'd probably love it to be Nazem Kadri, but
Oh yeah.
they're going to go shopping on that Flames team, and whether it be because of his cap hit or price of acquisition, I think it's Coleman instead of Kadri. I think the Avs is a great shout. Again, I don't know. Like Toronto's talking about moving Bobby McMahon. I did see that. I didn't put it on the list, but that's something that's been in rumors. Again, if they're moving Bobby McMahon as like a okay, we're not going to make the playoffs, let's recoup some assets here. Good, but if they're still expecting to make some noise in the playoffs, I think you upgrade on a Bobby McMahon with a Blake Coleman, personally. So I think Toronto, if Toronto is going to actually, make a push for this, he's Craig Berube's type of player. That's the other thing I'm thinking is
Mhm.
Berube struggled in Toronto to coach that team, and I think a Blake Coleman second liners, that's him, perfect.
I like it. I like it a lot. And some folks may forget Blake Coleman is a two-time Stanley Cup champion with a recent 30-goal season under his belt. So if you're wondering about that price for a 34-year-old depth forward, that's exactly why. And don't you forget it. Aiden, you brought up Kiefer Sherwood, and him being an asset that Mike Greer could move to, I mean, make sure it's a safe thing going on. He doesn't really strike me as a guy that teams aren't going to want. I mean, wouldn't every team want a Kiefer Sherwood on their third line come playoff time?
Yeah, it's kind of why I struggled to narrow it down, because you're right. Everybody take him, love it. Like he's a jack of all trades, really. He can do anything. He's smart enough to play with high end players and make an impact, and he's capable enough of playing a bottom six role that it doesn't matter where you slide him, doesn't matter what you tell him to do. I think San Jose gets a second rounder back for him. I'd be shocked if they have to
I like it.
soak something.
Last question I ask about this deadline before we come back to you on this one next week. Every year, every year, without a doubt, there's that one big player that we didn't think was going to get moved. He wasn't on anyone's radar. We weren't thinking about him. Any idea who it is
I'm gonna
or who it could be?
optimistically, yeah, I'm gonna optimistically say Philip Hronik
Okay. Why aren't we talking about him getting moved?
because Vancouver has so much else going on. I think that Hronik's just going under the radar, and I think they'd like to keep him. Tyler Myers doesn't want to go anywhere. He didn't want to go to Detroit, so it's case by case basis for Myers. But if they're in these negotiations for Tyler Myers and it falls through for whatever reason, I almost see the Patrick Alvin picking up the phone and saying, "Okay, how about Philip Hronik for that plus plus, right? And it's
Right.
what can you add to the Myers package from whoever was going to get him? Because if you're getting Tyler Myers, you have close to the Philip Hronik money already lined up. He's not quite there, but he's I think it's 3.5 to 5.2 or something. So you're not too far off with it, and it's a better version of that player. So the reason I say Hronik is because I know how aggressively they're shopping Myers. I know that trades are almost like done for Myers, and it's Myers who's using the no move clause to say, listen, I don't want to move there. I'm sorry,
Mhm.
which is within his purview to do. It's his right.
Yep.
So that's why I think Hronik is going to be the underreported one that we might see get moved as like a Myers didn't work, screw it. Like let's up the ante.
Taking things away from trade talk, a little bit of NHL news for you. Matthew Schaefer has all the buzz in the hockey world, and rightfully so. He's now hit 20 goals, most by any 18-year-old defenseman in NHL history. And Aiden, I think it's pretty stupid, and I guess the fancy word would be redundant to ask if he's a lock for the Calder.
Yeah, I think he definitely is. I really like the season Beckett Seneca's put together, and I
Oh,
want to.
I was so hoping you were gonna go there.
Yeah, and so I mean he's the number two. Like I think from what I've seen this year, it's like a big gap, and then it's Volstead Seneca that you could make the 2-3, and then another big gap for Schaefer. So yeah, Schaefer's on top. You're not going to touch him. But I'll give the flowers to the other guys. It's not a one horse race because there's like a couple. It's not a one horse race because second place is struggling. It's a one horse race because first place is just playing so out of his mind.
Okay, now here's where I think things get a little bit dicey. I love John Buccigross. I think he's a great media personality. I love his coverage. I love his calls. He has gone on X and said that Matthew Schaefer will be probably mentioned in his Norris ballot. I get it. I really do. But when you're voting for the Norris Trophy, we have to make sure there's no consideration of the player's age. This is just about the quality of defensemen they are. And how can you have Matthew Schaefer in your top five in your Norris ballot if age isn't a factor? Like, who are you taking off of there?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. To me, he's like again.
Also, I don't think Bucci's wild for making this claim. Like, it's
No,
not a
no,
ridiculous thing to say. So I'm
no,
not
it's not.
slandering him in any way, shape, or form. I love that he brought the discussion up.
I agree with you. Honestly, I mean, we both love Kale McCarr, man. We're both huge Kale McCarr guys. I think McCarr and Werenski have been above everybody else this year, and I actually think it might be Zach Werenski's year. We can have that conversation closer too. Werenski and McCarr have been so much better than everybody else, and then to me, it's a group. Like genuinely, I think there's like beyond those
Colleen has
two.
been nutty.
Yeah, I think there's 8 guys that could fill out like 3 through 10 after
Hmm.
in any order, right? Like Quinn Hughes obviously is always in the discussion. I'm gonna hear it for not saying Evan Bouchard. It's not Evan Bouchard. I'm sorry, but he's got 70 points already this season, just
I
about.
don't care how many points he gets. He
I
can have
know.
140 points. I'm not
Yeah.
interested.
And unfortunately, I think the same line of thinking has to apply as much as I'm taking it into consideration how good they've been. Lane Hudson and Darren Radish are both going to slide down my list because of that consideration as well. The Evan Bouchard of how good are you at playing defense. But then after Werenski and Makar, Schaefer's in a group with, yeah, Rasmus Dahlin, Miro Heiskanen, Jake Sanderson, Jacob Chikrin, to me, is a big group. Chikrin is the same where you have to ask yourself, all right, how good are you defensively? Are we taking that into consideration? Charlie McAvoy is not going to be in the Norris Trophy conversation this year at all. I just want to acknowledge that this is a guy that fell off hard and has finally kind of risen to the level that he was at before an injury and maybe a role change kind of sunk him a little bit. So McAvoy's at the bottom of my top 10. I just wanted to bring it up because he's been a pleasant surprise this year for me.
And Aiden, just checking in on some stat leaders and some milestones as we march our way towards the end of the season. We're over three-quarters of the way for most teams now. So Connor McDavid, first to pass 100 points this season. That wasn't something that we thought in the early stages of the year. He's now at 103 points in just 61 games. Pretty typical pace that we expect from him. Nathan McKinnon not far behind, 99 points. Nikita Kucherov, 95. But then it's a big drop off. Whereas going back, I mean, I think 15, 20 games ago, we saw Macklin Celebrini was right there with McDavid and McKinnon. I don't know how that number has changed so much because I look at his game log and it's not like he's been going multiple games pointless. But I mean, I guess I guess 4 points in a 5 game or in 6 game span. That's not enough to keep up with the biggest of big dogs. That isn't to say that Macklin Celebrini is doing anything wrong. I sure hope we do see him hit 100 points this year, but rightfully so, slowing down a little bit. Watch out in the goal scoring race because Nathan McKinnon's been in the league for most of the season. Cole Caulfield, Matt Boldy, and Connor McDavid all right behind him now. 6 goals behind. They have 35. He's got 41. Jason Robertson with 34 as well. Dude, I worry this is the Matt Boldy year. I think Matt Boldy finishes with 50 goals, and I wonder if that's enough to beat McKinnon.
I'm going to agree with you on 50% of that statement. I also think Matt Boldy cements himself as a 50 goal scorer for the first time in his career. I think McKinnon is still above it. Like he's 6 goals up. Like we're talking if Boldy scores,
McKinnon has 1 goal in his last 5 games. Before
yeah,
that, he had a 2 goal game, and then he had 0 goals in 5 games. Before that, he had a 2 goal game, and he had 1 goal in 6 games.
I think he's going to score more than 10 goals from this point out.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hope
So
so.
yeah, I hope so too.
I hope so, but like he's not scoring, dude. I don't know
I
what's
know.
going on.
I know. Well, and we'll talk about it a little bit when we get to the
Yeah.
Olympics soon, because there's some McKinnon talk to be had there.
One stat that I don't think he can be beat on this season, Nathan McKinnon is a plus 53. The closest non-teammate to him is JJ Moser at plus 40, which is incredible in its own right. One other guy I just want to shine a light on before we get there, and this guy's been pissing me off every night because the one guy ahead of me in fantasy that I'm trying with all of my might to catch. I've traded away all of my great young players for rental upgrades and filling out my depth with aging stars that I can't use as keepers. Uh, Carl Vamelka, Veggie, a guy who was once my hero in fantasy, my unsung hero, a guy that no one else wanted, but he was always a top 10 fantasy goalie. Fast forward a couple years, and yeah, he's on the team ahead of mine, and he is first in goalie wins. He is first in every fantasy league for goaltending because he is second in shots against, and he's on a team that can actually win as well. So, I mean, it's if you have the opportunity to pick up Veggie, which I'd be blown away if you do. Like if he's available in your league, you should probably quit your league. Your league is stupid if he's available. I'm sorry. Maybe that's rude, but no. Yeah, he's pissing me off, but kudos to him, man. This is a guy who nobody thought would be a long-term NHL goalie. He was cannon fodder for the Arizona Coyotes in a year where they just got smoked every game. Like it was one of those years where like Keller didn't even look that good. So I mean, it's pretty cool that he's managed to cement himself among some of the league's best, and with a 901 save percentage, 257 goals against. Like those stats aren't jumping off the page, but he's getting his team wins, and wins are what matters. So, Aiden, where do you want to take things next? Is it time we go Olympics?
Yeah, let's rip this band-aid off.
All right. So before we get into the gold medal game, I do really, really, really want to say watching Canada's games against Czechia and Finland, those comebacks and overtime thrillers. That is some of the most fun hockey I've watched in my adult life. And I think it's important to mention adult life because you lose some of that childlike, youth-like luster around the sport a little bit as time goes on. You still love it. You still have a great time with it, but
a lot of the games don't jump out the same way they used to. So I really, really want to give this tournament kudos for giving me that feeling again. I truly loved it. I also want to take a second to give credit to the Czechs, credit to the Swiss, and credit to a Finnish team that didn't have their best player and top line center in Alexander Barkov there. These teams gave me a lot of excitement. And most importantly, I want to give kudos to the Slovaks and Juraj Slivkovsky and Dalibor Dvorsky and all of these fantastic players who were able to go up into a semifinal that nobody thought they would make. Yes, they got the doors blown off of them, but they won a couple games that nobody gave them any chance in. And I think to me, that's something worth writing home about. I heard and read Slavkovsky's comments about how it doesn't really feel like it matters. It just hurts. Like they wish they could have gone further. They know they could have gone further. But I think when you look back in a couple years, knowing that you were able to hang with the big dogs with the roster that you had there, that's fantastic. And that's some of the storylines that you like to see coming out of the Olympics. You want that underdog. You want that Krzysztof Skrzydlewski's Latvia game. Like you want that kind of mentality around it all. So I want to shine a light on that as well. Aiden, any unsung heroes for you that I haven't talked about?
Well, and Slovakia, dude. Slavkovsky, Dvorsky, and Simon Nemec are all very young. So we will see them back. And I just hope that the next World Cup of Hockey, I say I hope, we know that unless something changes from what the plan is, we know Slovakia will be the next World Cup of Hockey. It was a little bit of a bummer that, Zdeno Chara and Roman Josi and however, Yaroslav Halak all had to play for Europe at the last World Cup. So I am very much looking forward to, again, whether it be, you're right, Switzerland, Czechia, Slovakia, to make that impact again for their own countries and not for Team Europe next time around. I still like Switzerland, man. I was kind of crushed they lost because they were my dark horse bronze medal candidate the whole time. They put up a good fight against the Czechs. But let's do it. Let's do it. Gold medal game. I don't know how much there is to talk about this game that hasn't already been said, so I'll try and be brief. Number one, the way this game unfolded, just ask Nathan McKinnon. Nathan McKinnon said, "We all watched it. You tell me who the better team was." I think he's right. I think the Canadians dominated the Americans, and I think as much as I have my own thoughts about the team going to the State of the Union and the White House, the fact that Connor Hellebuyck got a Presidential Medal of Freedom, again, asterisk on it because of what's going on and who those people are right now, but he deserves every frickin' honor you can give him for this tournament, right? Like, I don't know what if the American hockey has some frickin' hero designation, if USA Hockey can make him like an honorary lifetime MVP, I don't know, man. What can you say? Because this is a guy, James, this is the best goaltender since Carey Price. And if there was ever a doubt about, if there's been a doubt about that, I'm sorry, Andre Vasilevsky, you were so good. But your career at 2 Stanley Cups Vezinas, it's right up there with Price and Hellebuyck. Like Connor Hellebuyck, look at this resume. Hart Trophy. He's the only goaltender to win the Hart Trophy other than Carey Price in the last 2 decades. And Price in that 2014 Olympics was just brilliant. He let in 3 goals the whole tournament. That was it. And Connor Hellebuyck in this game, he could have let in 3 goals a period. A lesser goaltender would have let in 3 goals a period, without a doubt. But every single time there was an opportunity, I don't know how he was there. And this goaltender, I might have texted you about it. I texted some of my friends about it, reminiscing back to maybe some old World Junior games. I remember John Gibson did this for the Americans at the World Juniors in 2013. Spencer Knight did this for the Americans at the World Juniors in 2021, where single-handedly just wins the tournament for them. But boy, this game was all Hellebuyck, and give him all 3 stars of this game if you could. Give him everything. I know Connor McDavid won MVP. I almost would have given it to Hellebuyck. Like, crazy stuff. 2 more players that I criticized a lot, that I want to say, holy crap, what a tournament. I really like the role Austin Matthews settled into, because he was so good defensively every time he was on the ice. The January 6th line, the Eichel and the Kachucks up front, the big guns were great at playing offense. And I just feel like Matthews slid in behind them and just filled in all the blanks that needed to be filled in. And Vincent Trocheck was phenomenal down the lineup. JT Miller justified his inclusion for sure with the way he played. But there was a chance that Eichel and Matthews both needed to be the guy. They both needed to be the headliner. They both needed to be the first line center. And I actually kind of think that this dynamic that the two of them managed to create was one that I didn't know if they'd be able to. I don't think they did in the Four Nations. But to me, Matthews deserves a lot because he's not a guy that I would have picked for captain. He has shown himself to be a Selke caliber defensive forward in the NHL before, but he was that in this game throughout. The other guy, absolutely, Jack Hughes was one of their best forwards this whole tournament. I think on this rundown, James, I wrote Jack Hughes with a career-defining moment to end a career-defining tournament because to me, that's exactly what it was. He's been disappointing for me in New Jersey, say for one season. He's been hurt. He can't stay healthy. But if Jack Hughes continues to struggle the way he's continued to struggle for the New Jersey Devils over the last 2 years, and he doesn't become the Jack Hughes that everybody thought he was going to be drafted to be, it doesn't matter anymore, man. It doesn't matter anymore. It just does not, because this is what your career can be. You are a hero for your country because golden goals don't come around all that often. And it wasn't just the one moment either. We're not talking about like Teddy Stiga, who was the 13-4 most of the tournament and just spawns up and scores the golden goal. Jack Hughes was so good in this tournament the entire time. And like I said, career-defining moment.
Great breakdown, fella. I also want to give some credit to that Matt Boldy goal. I know I've been glazing him already and talking about his goal scoring, but splitting the D through Cale Makar and Devon Taves and scoring on Jordan Binnington, who shut down so much of that team in the Four Nations tournament. One hell of a goal to open up a gold medal game. I think in tight games like this, often it's a really nice play after some sustained offensive zone pressure, or it's that one shot that bounces off of five things and goes in because everything's so tight. But getting to see a wide open talent on display goal in a game like this was really cool. I liked that a lot. And then the Cale Makar goal that tied the game. It showcased exactly why he's the most dynamic defenseman on the planet and one of the most dynamic we've ever seen. It's extremely, extremely incredible what he can do with the puck and what he did with the puck there. Just the one goal that Connor Hellebuck let in. And before we get to the end of the game, I also want to talk about just how cool it was that all of these bars and pubs and restaurants were able to open up at 5 in the morning to and be able to serve liquor and food when they wouldn't even have been open, let alone have kitchen staff or bartenders going. We had legislation in BC that let that happen last minute, and that was incredible. I had friends at Longhorn Saloon up in Whistler. I had friends at Old City Station Pub in Nanaimo. I had friends at the Craft in Victoria. It's just so cool that we got to see everyone rally together and watch these games. I always look back to the 2014 Olympics when they shut down the all of the classes in my high school so that we could all go to the auditorium and watch the gold medal game. It was incredible, or not the gold medal game, the
Semifinal.
semifinal game. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was incredible, man. I loved it. I loved it so much. So I'm happy that we got to have some shred of that, and then there are kids who get to look back at that as well. Like my 7 and 11 year old or 8 and 11 year old cousins, they watched like every game that they could this tournament. And now my 11-year-old cousin is hockey obsessed, and he's watching so many story and stat videos about the history of hockey in the NHL, and he wasn't doing that before this Olympics. So that's a really cool thing that I just wanted to mention before we get to the rest.
I think I've said it before. It was the roller coasters. That was the 2009 World Juniors, the 2010 World Juniors, and then the 2010 Olympics that like
Mhm.
grabbed me into hockey, and just that was it. That was it for me. That was I credit those World Juniors and then the Olympics being in Vancouver for why I'm so involved in this sport today. So it's nothing like it. It's really nothing like it. Speaking of Canada, dude, there's just a couple things I want to say, right? Where you and I were sitting on this podcast a few times before the tournament talking about our picks and trying to justify our picks, trying to spin everything in particular ways. And I remember one of the things I said was you need to have an option in case of however many injuries. You need to have two players to play each position if something happens. And there was two positions that I really thought by the end of the tournament they needed help in. A second line center and the second best puck moving offensive defenseman. Okay? And Sidney Crosby getting hurt. Nathan MacKinnon was hurt. Can we agree on that?
Yep.
Yeah. Nathan
Well,
MacKinnon was playing hurt.
the going rumor is that he was recovering from norovirus.
Okay. So he was so not at 100%, and that is why he got stapled to the first line. Macklin Celebrini, Connor McDavid, and Nathan MacKinnon, I think, was a line as much as anything because that was the way to get the best out of MacKinnon when he wasn't at 100%. But then Crosby also gets hurt, and you have this hole in the second line center spot. I really like what Nick Suzuki did, man.
I don't mean to stop your rant, but that is the saddest part of the tournament. Crosby not being able to play in the
Yeah,
goal game.
oh, for sure. And I like Nick Suzuki, but at the end of the day, you look through the tournament and you look at the centers that aren't Celebrini, MacKinnon, Crosby for that second line spot, and it's like, Shifley or Johnston, man, right? Like that's where it's just
I would love Mark Scheifele, man.
that's where it just hurts so bad. Is the obviously you took enough Sam Bennett's like took Bennett and Wilson and Horvat and Jarvis, like they are all so good at playing their roles, but without Point and without a healthy McKinnon, without a healthy Crosby, I just think you needed that 2C to drive that second line. And I'm looking right now because we happen to have the stats open because we were talking about it before. I'm staring at it. Skaters, points, tied for ninth, Mark Scheifele, 70. There's only 3 Canadian forwards ahead of him on that list. Goals, tied for 8, Wyatt Johnston, 32. Like, so that's what stings on the forward end. On the defensive end, I actually think I named Josh Morrissey as the guy whose injury potentially would need another defenseman on there. It was Thomas Harley who came in for him in the Four Nations final. Thomas Harley was already in the lineup, and James, this is where you would have needed Matthew Schaefer or Jacob Chychrun, right? Like you don't need all 7 of your defensemen, say for Makar, to be two-way geared players. You need another offensive puck mover, and I would not have taken Bouchard, no, but on that left side to fill in for Morrissey, Schaefer or Chychrun needed to be there, and I think they lacked offense from their back end as the tournament went on. When Morrissey got hurt, you could tell there was a hole. Finally, Devon Taves was as soft as baby poo on that Boldy goal. I think that's the only thing I can remember you saying that I had some sort of retort to, was like, oh my God, hit him, do something.
Yeah, I think they were both just caught stunned. I don't think they saw it coming. They were forced to turn around in a situation where they didn't expect it. That's just not the kind of play you expect in a game like that. So, yeah, I wish it didn't go that way, but it was a nice goal at least. Aiden, I know that you have some stuff you want to take it away with.
Okay, so obviously hockey media has been asking these players a lot about what happened after the gold medal, okay? And there's a lot of things that have been covered extensively that I don't need to talk about, but there were a couple things that I'm seeing missed, and I need to talk about it. So, for starters, we're going to go into the dressing room right after the game. And before even that, I'm going to first address the most quoted retort to any and all of the analysis that's kind of been had about this over the past week. And that's the don't mix politics with sports. And James is my long-suffering podcast spouse, so he can attest that this is the kind of topic that I'll get distracted with and go down a rabbit hole of explaining different political crap at play when I talk about any of this. So I'm really going to do my best here just to analyze and report all of this from like the factual, abject reality basis of just the observable information. And obviously, this should also go without saying you're listening to my analysis on the matter. I'm not speaking for James, but I'm going to talk about what happened with the U.S. Olympic men's hockey team after they won the gold medal last Sunday evening in Milan. If you think I'm straying away from hockey a little bit too much in this conversation, I'm sorry. Sports is inherently political. I'll just give you an example. Personally, it was the other sport I love. I call it football. It's soccer here that opened my eyes to how maliciously sports and politics can be intertwined. And that was once I began to question why the World Cup was being held in particular countries. And the term is called sports washing. It sounds stupid, I get it, but it's basically shorthand for the very common practice of politicians and governments using sports to improve their own image. In the soccer context, what that's looked like with the World Cup in the recent past has been World Cups being held in South Africa, Russia, and Qatar, and right after Qatar, whatever, you're going to have Saudi Arabia in 2034. That's all in my lifetime alone. And what happens there is powerful governments love to say, look at this awesome sports thing to distract people from what's happening in their countries. And this is a thing that's been happening since it was in the form of gladiators. That is the first example of this. So I've seen plenty of sentiment around avoiding engagement in politics, but not wanting to engage with the politics of sport does not mean that politics aren't intertwined with sport. So with that established, hear me out. We're going to start with the first thing that chronologically happened after the game, and that's the phone call with Donald Trump and Kash Patel in the dressing room right after that game. I'll run through it if you're not familiar. When the president called the team and was on speakerphone, he invited them to the White House. I don't think he invited them to the State of the Union in that particular call, but he invited them to the White House, and he said with a laugh, I must tell you, we're going to have to bring the women's team. You do know that. And the dressing room responded by erupting in laughter. So the implication here and the way it was received was that inviting the women's team alongside the men's team was an unwilling obligation rather than a choice that was being happily made. And to me, as much as I know there might not want to be a huge appetite to talk about this, but to me, this is just yet another example of hockey culture being very unwelcoming to outsiders. To be clear, we're talking about what they're laughing at, which is the prospect that the women's accomplishment was equal to the men's accomplishment. They're laughing at the concept of them being honored in the same way. And yeah, we've seen all of those players' responses since then. We saw Brady Tkachuk, I think he was the first one to say, guys, we were hanging out with them the whole time. We were celebrating together. And yeah, I'm sure that was a wonderful experience, but whether or not the players like the women and like the women's team is really not the point. Austin Matthews, both Hughes brothers, Matthew Tkachuk and Moore, all said that they had a lot of respect for the women's team. Charlie McAvoy at least took it a step further. He said sorry for how he responded in that moment. Jeremy Swayman admitted that they should have reacted differently. That's all what it was. But I've just spent a bunch of time, okay, breaking down what the men's team said. And that's me and everybody else in the hockey world right now, breaking down what the men's team said in response to this. But the point I really need to make here is that what McAvoy or Swayman or the Tkachuks or me, like my opinion on this, it just doesn't matter. It does not matter because it's not about them. 48% of female athletes report receiving sexist insults while they're playing sports. 63% of women working in sports organizations have experienced sexist behavior in the workplace. And 21% of female athletes report experience at least one form of sexual abuse as a child in the sport. That's double the rate for male athletes. So to me, at the end of the day, it is entirely the women whose opinion on this matters the most. And all week, all I've seen have been quotes on the matter from the men's team. The only thing I had really seen prior to this weekend, we saw some of them on the talk shows together. The only thing I'd seen prior from any of the women's players was Captain Hillary Knight had called it a distasteful joke. That's it. And it was even at times I saw that quote from Knight being presented in kind of a dismissive way, as if it was kind of, oh, it was only a distasteful joke. But it seems like nobody is pulling the part of the Hillary Knight quote that I think is the most important in regards to why this reaction was such a problem. Hillary Knight said that she thought the joke was, quote, distasteful and unfortunate before saying, quote, I think this is just a really good learning point to focus on, how we talk about women, not only in sport, but in industry. Women aren't less than, and our achievements shouldn't be overshadowed by anything else other than how great they are. And that is the point to me that is being so frustratingly missed. Haley Skamura of the Montreal Victoire, who won gold with the U.S. women's team, her quote, she said, quote, the call was what it was, which to me is the same dismissive tone that completely overshadows the sentiment of what Knight said. Because it's a lot easier, James, to say it was what it was than to acknowledge the ramifications of what Hillary Knight had said, which I'll remind you was that this should just be a good learning point to focus on how we talk about women and women in sports. And the discourse around that, like, I have to ask the question, will it be? And the answer is absolutely not. And all we get from the team's leadership, alternate captain Matthew Tkachuk said that if someone perceived their laughter as anything but them having respect for the women's team, that's not what they meant. I'm pretty sure McAvoy's the only guy that we actually heard sorry of. And sorry if there's any non-Canadians on the horn, but we take the sorry thing seriously up there. It's a stereotype for a reason. So at the end of the day, whether apologies are sufficient or not, it really doesn't matter what Jack Hughes says. It doesn't matter what Matthew Tkachuk thinks. It doesn't matter what Jeremy Swayman says. This is about the nearly half of women who say that they've experienced sexism while they played sports, and the 3 out of 5 women who say they've experienced misogyny while working for sports teams. Because for all the progress women's sports has been made, and all the progress women's hockey has been made, here we see what this team thinks of the idea that the women's accomplishment be treated equal to that of the men's. To them, it's laughable. And it's women in sports who we should be hearing from about this in response, not the men's team. Listen to Hilary Knight and learn from this. Don't just dismiss it the way that other toxic elements of hockey culture have always been dismissed. It matters more what the women have to say than it does what I have to say or what the American men have to say in terms of clarifying their intentions. It doesn't matter. Listen to Knight. Please take a step back and ask yourself why this matters, because it does. It really, really does. And there's a lot more that I could say and DM me personally. Don't DM the account if you want to talk about this anymore. But again, personally, man, I've been involved in women's hockey since I helped run the women's ball hockey team at my high school in grade 10. Right? Like it's always been something I've really cared about. I've always had friends play women's hockey. So just to me, it's a topic I care about. I'm not going to go in too much on the other half of it because that is where it's less about hockey. I just implore you to keep in mind what I said about sports washing and how governments use athletes and sports to try and influence the perception of them. When teams win championships in North American sports, for MLB, NBA, NFL, it's, every one of those teams except for the 2 Toronto ones are in America. So when an American team wins, it's so frequent that you'll see them get invited to the White House and they get the picture in behind. We saw that in the Club World Cup in the summer too. Like Chelsea won the Club World Cup, and they had a lot going on with Donald Trump at the White House because the tournament was in the United States last summer. It was a soccer tournament, sorry, if anybody has no idea what I'm talking about. But State of the Union is different. The point of a State of the Union is for the leader of the country to step up and talk about everything that's happened in the last year and everything that they're going to do to make things better. It is a campaign speech most of the time. It is the leader of the country pumping up their tires of what's happened and pumping up their tires of what's going to happen. Now, when you see these things happen in the past, these State of the Unions, these guests are usually guests of honor who have benefited from the government. I think the most recent one I can remember before this administration was a guest of former President Joe Biden's, who his father, again, he was a political prop. He was a political prop, but his father had just got his job back, right? And so it was look at this kid we helped. His dad got his job back. Yay. But that's what a State of the Union is. It's it's a self-promotion. It's a promotional event more than just a White House visit. And I'm actually really glad that I said this week and not last week, because everybody in Canada, the evidence of your eyes and ears doesn't deceive you about what's going on in the States right now and what the attendance implicitly meant. So again, that's all from me. James said it. I think I went for less than 10 minutes, which was a good thing. Women's hockey, PWHL, support it. If you enjoyed watching this women's tournament, which I definitely did, you know what? All of those players that you see playing for Canada, the US, and the European countries, before, there was no league to watch them in. Some of them played in college. So they were just all over the place before. Now there's actually a spot where we watched Sarah Fillier play with Team Canada. We watched Taylor Heisey play with the Team USA. Guess what? They're on your TV every week. There's a PWHL. please support it because it is an incredible step for hockey. And I'd like women's hockey to keep making steps forward rather than what we saw this week.
Good show, Aiden. Very good show. Aiden, just we're kind of running out of fantasy gamblers roundups as we get closer to the end of the season, and I'm going to have a bit of a theme with this one because in my fantasy gamblers roundup, as you know, you need to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, and know when to walk away. And all of these players are players where you need to understand when to walk away from them because it's rental season, baby. If you are a contender, you need to be pushing your chips to the middle if it's viable. I've done it for better or for worse. I've gone out and acquired I've got Mark Stone, Eric Carlson, Evgeny Malkin, Rasmus Anderson, Jared McCann's not that much of a rental, but solid pick nonetheless. Just the theme is going out and chasing veterans like this, and Alex Ovechkin, something like that. Just a guy who, in a keeper format, you're not going to have to pay as much to get because if he's on a bad team, a team that's not going to contend, this is an asset they're going to lose for nothing. So you go and give them a young keeper player. I had to give up a very valuable Matthew Nyes. And you need to go fill out the rest of your roster with good players because if you're chasing it, if you're trying to win the whole thing, you don't have any room for these garbage players who aren't contributing anything to your roster in fantasy. And I say garbage. This isn't talking about how they're garbage hockey players. They play in the NHL, but we're talking fantasy hockey. We're talking production and we're talking filling categories. So I've filled out my roster with many of them. Eric Carlson, one of them. The Pittsburgh Penguins have been quite good in the latter half of the season. Actually, in most of this season, and stapled to that first power play unit and getting a decent amount of shots on goal and other categories filled. He's quite the key contributor. Evgeny Malkin's another one. I'm a little bit worried, but Sidney Crosby's out for 3 to 4 weeks, from what I gather. I believe he's still out about that long. And typically, historically, I mean, I know it's been a long time, and I know they're not in their primes anymore. But when Crosby goes out of the lineup, Evgeny Malkin goes beast mode. I'm hoping that is some of the same and past success is going to be the indicator of current and future success. But we shall see. As I said, these players are getting hit by the aging curve.
Mark
The
Stone
other
didn't play
veteran,
today.
yeah,
Hey?
Mark Stone, he's day to day right now, so
Yeah.
that's a nice outcome. Mark Stone is another one of those players that I've acquired. His injury history is quite concerning, as always is the case with him. But when he's in the lineup, he's fantastic. So if you can go and get him for almost nothing from a team that's not contending, do it, do it, do it, do it. But please do not expect to keep these players for any longer past this season. I mean, yeah, sure, maybe go draft them late next year, but in a keeper format, as we are typically talking about, it's just not something that's going to work. I'm personally not going to be keeping Eric Carlson. Maybe you want to. Maybe your team sucks. It's possible. But yeah, Aiden, is there anything you want to touch on with fantasy as we get closer to the end of the year?
Acknowledging the Mark Stone injury was all I had because yeah, it is day to day, but it was day to day like right after the game, and now
Yeah,
he's missed a game 2 days later. So
yeah,
now is when we might hear an injury update. So keep the
right.
ear to the stone on or to the ground on stone, not stone on ground. But
100%. 100%. Aiden, as we do on most of our episodes, shows and movies. It's been almost a couple weeks since the last time we've talked, and it's no doubt you've watched something good. What has been on your TV recently?
okay, so I have a weird habit where like if it's my birthday, now my birthday's on December 24th. Sorry, I should add that. If it's like I'm always with family, I'm always busy. So if I have like some time on my birthday or Christmas where I'm like, okay, I got 2 hours where I'm just by myself, I'll often watch a movie. I always think about watching It's a Wonderful Life because it's December and it's Christmas and it's Christmas time. It's a Wonderful Life is sad though. So then I go looking for other movies. I always end up on a different sad movie. Always. So I end up always watching this super depressing movie on my birthday. I liked it so much this year, this particular one, that I rewatched it with my dad and I rewatched it with Caitlin in the 2 months since I watched it for the first time. And that's American History X, which is about Edward Norton's character plays a white supremacist who's released from prison after he kills two people, and he's hoping to prevent his younger brother from just following in the same footsteps. The whole movie takes place over like an 18-hour span, and it is just so good because it's the younger brother who's talking to his older brother and writing a paper on him, and so every like all the whole story you see as part of the younger brother, who's played by Edward Furlong, younger brother Danny, recalling everything that led up to his older brother Derek's incarceration. And so we watch that unfold through Danny's eyes, and we watch the story kind of as Derek gets out of prison and gets back involved with Danny. Everybody needs to watch this movie. Everybody needs to watch American History X. Please do. I also started watching a TV show. James, have you ever seen Shameless?
Never seen it. I've had people recommend it to me, and I've had other people tell me it's not for me. A
Yeah.
lot of the actors from that show have gone on to have fantastic careers, so it's definitely something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I think I was like 18, 19. And one of my best friends told me that I reminded them of Lip Gallagher from Shameless. I've watched season one. That is so far not a compliment. So I hope that I hope that I'm a little bit more flattered by
Who
that as
plays that
time
one?
goes on. Jeremy Allen White.
Oh,
So it's
okay,
not
yeah.
it's not a physical. It was not a you look like. It was a you remind me of, which is interesting.
Love it, man. Love it. Yeah, I've had a lot of friends tell me that it's one of their favorite shows they've ever seen. But my girlfriend and one of my best friends tell me that the show is absolutely not for me and I wouldn't enjoy it. So I don't know why, but I imagine they're correct because that's a couple sources pretty close. So Aiden, I watched a movie that I've had on my list for what feels forever. I remember this movie coming out and wanting to watch it. I remember every time someone told me about it, I wanted to watch it, and I just never got around to it. That movie is The Town, starring Ben Affleck and directed by him as well. Supporting roles from Jeremy Renner, Blake Lively, John Hamm. It's a really really good ensemble cast, and unlike a couple of the other big Ben Affleck banger movies, I don't find this is one where he has to shine. It's not necessarily an ensemble style thing, but it is about the story as a whole rather than just the one character shining. And this movie's a heist. It opens up with a really awesome bank robbery scene, and just kind of spends the next couple hours going over the fallout of it and what these players in this story experience living in Charlestown, which is just on the other side of the bridge from Boston. And I find that the stakes feel so real, the chase feels so strong, and the story is really it's something that really grabs you and just takes you along the whole way. It's something that I really wish I saw in theaters back in the day. I had just as great of a time watching it just in my living room on my TV, but this would have been a great theater movie, just with all of the interactions and things that happen or go wrong. And you'll notice I'm giving a really spoiler-free review right now because I know Aiden wants to watch it as well. But yeah, it's something where the sound almost captivates you along with the story more than the visuals do because I mean it's in the great town of Charlestown. It's not exactly the most visually striking place. This is what some have told me is it's a charming part of Boston. Charming is a really good word to use because crime riddled and yeah, it's based on a book called Prince of Thieves. That's the story that was adapted to it, and it's not exactly based on a true story, but it's inspired by a lot of bank robbers and people who lived in crime that lived in the area, and yeah, I loved it, man. I probably like it more than most of the handful of movies that I've seen over the last little while. I will say I tried to watch another movie that I was incredibly excited for. That one's called In the Blink of an Eye. It's on Disney Plus. It has Rashida Jones, Kate McKinnon, David Diggs, and a couple others. And it's three stories running parallel over the course of the movie. One is in the end of the Neanderthal era, a family just kind of living day to day. And another one is Rashida Jones working as an anthropologist and uncovering exactly what happened with that family like thousands and thousands of years ago. And then the other story is Kate McKinnon as the sole living person on like a life ship, like a colony life ship, hundreds of years in the future, leaving a depleted Earth and taking plants that will provide oxygen to whatever planet it is that they're going to. And what she encounters and the loneliness in that. And I think the pacing was kind of a mess. I wasn't able to finish it. I'm gonna go back to it. I was really excited for it, so I hope I like it more. I was told by someone I didn't get to the parts that I'm gonna like, but I shouldn't have to get over an hour into a movie to get to the parts that I'm gonna like. I will say though, the sound is fantastic. I've really been noticing that a lot more in movies that I watch. Not just the score, but the sound design in a movie has really been captivating me a lot.
Nothing against any of those actors, but that feels like a bunch. That feels like an excellent cast of supporting actors. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah, but
yeah.
not a leading one.
Yeah, I know what you mean,
Yeah.
but like in a way, it wouldn't need a lead because it's three different
No,
stories.
no, it
Yeah.
wouldn't. And I actually think that's why they didn't get a lead, and that's
Yeah.
almost kind of what I'm saying, where it's like it feels like they didn't get the big star because there was no big star role, but they like that cast feels like it could use a reinforcement. I think is all I'm
Yeah.
saying.
I know what you mean. I know
Yeah.
exactly what you mean. Yeah, it's intriguing. If you're looking for something to keep your mind occupied on a rainy evening, give it a go. That's what I'll say for that one. Aiden, is there anything else you want to talk about before we bid our listeners adieu?
Yes, sorry. Yes, sorry. Literally one tiny little thing because I was just
Talking like a robot.
yeah, I just need to find the article. Shireen Ahmed of CBC wrote a wonderful opinion piece today called Media Needs to Be Better When It Comes to Covering the Difficult Issues in Hockey. Part of the reason I was so passionate and driven, we've been working on what I was going to say about it because I didn't see anything really covering the hey, let's listen to the women's perspective part of the US laughter controversy, if that's what we want to put it. And Shireen Ahmed is a female CBC reporter who today posted this article. I'm actually probably straight up going to link it in the description of the podcast because she did a excellent, if not better job, definitely more succinct job of explaining and talking about what I was yapping about. So huge credit goes out to her. James and I are journalists. I don't know if that's like conveyed that like on our wall, and it's not on my wall, it's sitting on my desk, but in our possession are certificates of education that say we are with yeah, we are journalists. So I very
I
much
actually
want
used to
to.
do that for like a bit.
I know, isn't that weird? So we actually do want to, shout out to other journalists who are doing their best in a hard journalism landscape.
For sure, plenty out there, and especially shout out to our former classmates and some of my former colleagues who, in the catastrophic tragedy that took place in Tumbler Ridge, BC, they did a fantastic job of covering what they needed to cover, and something that journalists have to do is set their emotions and feelings aside and talk about some things that are quite troubling to them at times. So I kudos to our former classmates and colleagues because they're doing a great job, doing a fantastic job. So without further ado, let's roll that outro. We'll see you after trade deadline day. Thanks, guys.